Hello and welcome back to our second video in this series at looking at research and the senior capstone paper, and particularly how we can do research as a high school student on the senior capstone paper and moving into college. In the first video of the series, we sort of looked at why someone should research like a college student. Again, it's not only college students or professors who research this way. We're sort of using that as a stand-in to really discuss why a lot of high school style research by students doesn't really work, isn't really successful, leads to a lot of having to redo things, frustrations, loss of work, and just a lot of difficulty. And we're trying to talk about a better way. While the last video, we really looked at problems created by high school research and sort of four things and the beginning of how it needs to be better done. With this video, we're going to start looking at one of the tools that we can use on the senior capstone paper. And so again, a quick review of the last video, but again, I really encourage you to go back and look at that. It's called Why You Should Research Like a College Student. But we talked a lot about how bad research can cause writer's block. It can cause redo, it can cause lost work, it can lead to repetitive sourcing. And the video discussed why we need to research like a college student to be successful. And in fixing those problems, we have to get better at doing research. And one of the ways that I see successful students research like a college student versus other students is the use of high quality electronic databases. In Metro Nashville Public Schools, we have several options of high-quality electronic databases, but let's talk about some of their advantages quickly. Then we're going to discuss one in this video in particular. So electronic databases, electronic just being online, and databases just meaning gatherings of information, are a collection of professionally written articles. These are not things usually available freely over the internet and generally cannot be easily found with standard internet searches. They're usually professionally written with all the information someone needs to use them in a research paper. And they tend to get very specific in their discussion of the topic instead of just talking over something generally. There are, of course, exceptions, but these are the types of sources that I often see our most successful capstone students using. They give certain benefits. A lot of things that are on the internet are just written for free or written to get ad dollars. And they're really meant to generate clicks on Google, Bing, Yahoo searches, and so on. However, articles that are typically in electronic databases have been written by people who are either paid professionally to write about that topic or doing the research on that topic for a career. And they tend to be, not always, you still need good judgment, but less biased, tend to be better researched, and tend to be written much more with the expectation that people are reading these things to gather deep knowledge and to be used in a research type context. And these things, when we want to become experts on a topic for something like a capstone paper, are typically far more useful than general Google articles or Yahoo Answers or Quora or short Wikipedia articles and some of the problems we talked about in the last video. Electronic databases tend to have four types of sources that are often difficult to find, at least in high quality with normal internet searches. These are academic journals, very few of quality of which are available freely over the internet. Those are typically written by professors and by people who are researching that subject for a living. You'll find magazine and periodicals and news clips. Those are things written by professional journalists. And you might even find entire books. All of these things are available in some of the databases that we're going to discuss today. Various tips for using a good electronic database like Tennessee Electronic Library is to use advanced search features to help narrow down sources. We're going to look at that in a minute. Save source information like authors, dating, and original publication to help do citation information in the paper later. And you can use, since many of these things tend to list the sources from which they found their information, you can use the sources inside those sources to find other relevant sources to the topic. This is a technique called source mining, which you can ask your teacher about. And if we have time throughout this very sort of quick quarantine fill-in capstone process, we'll make a video on it. If you are a Tennessee high school student, one of the best freely available databases you have is Tennessee Electronic Library, which can be accessed anywhere for free inside the state of Tennessee. I have had many of my students do successful capstone papers using only this electronic database and what can be found here. So we're going to take a look at Tennessee Electronic Library, some quick tips, and show you how to use it. It's really where I recommend my students start first on their papers. There's other things you can do. There's other tips. There's Google Scholar, Google Books, other types of source mining, other databases. But Tennessee Electronic Library for a lot of our capstone papers is really a really good place to start. So let's take a look at it. Again, here's the website. You can also just Google Tennessee Electronic Library. You'll find it pretty easy that way. So I've opened up Tennessee Electronic Library here in Chrome already. And so this is what it looks like here. You have a general search box over here, but you also have advanced search. And a lot of my students, when I first get them to Tennessee Electronic Library, they just want to put their topic in here and not use advanced search. So we're going to look at what that looks like. So let's just search for general topic. You can see I already have a fill-in, nursing. I teach a health academy. I get a lot of students want to do papers on nursing. So I'm just going to start here and I'm going to search for nursing. So Tennessee Electronic Library is a Gale database. And it itself is a collection of databases. I'm getting a little graphical distortion here with the recording, but I believe this is good enough to go on. So I've searched for nursing. So this has brought up everything in Tennessee Electronic Library database that contains nursing. These are long, very detailed things. Look how much I already have. It has found 188,000 magazine articles that mention nursing, for over 450,000 journal articles, 17,000 books, over 2 million news articles, and you also say it has images, videos, and audio clips. It's found a lot of things. I can narrow this somewhat because some of these may just be clips of articles. I can search for things using full text documents. This will make sure I get complete things. That takes it down a little, but not a lot. And what you can immediately see is that Tennessee Electronic Library has a lot of things that that mentions nursing. So let's look at a few examples, for example. So this is from a journal that's usually a scholarly source. You'll see it is over 4,000 words long. It's very professionally written. You can ask your teacher about Lexile levels if you like, but that's a high college level reading level. Dietary protein levels affect the nursing performance of lactating milk. This one is about nursing homes. This is a study on data involving clinical nursing, and it's focusing on emergency medical services. This is a relevant news article to when I'm bringing this video about COVID entering nursing homes. This is about wages for nursing home operators. So there's a lot of things about nursing, and if we were to click on one of these, this gives us a lot more additional information than you find on Google search. Remember, almost none of this would be on the internet for free. It tells us easily when it's written, or in this case, when it was published. Really, because this is before I'm making this video, we have something even earlier before it hits print. So again, that's a knowledge of Tennessee Electronic Databases. We can click to the journal. We have the publisher. We have a word count, all the things you need to cite a paper. And we have a very deep discussion. We even get data. We could use that in our paper if we want. And we also have a very long list of sources here that were used in the creation of this paper. And if I have to make a works cited on this, look at this, it's already made. Again, ask your teacher about works cited. We may have a video here and capstone that on some point. If I was using a general website, I would have to figure this all out myself. And it gives me several different ways to save the source so I don't lose it. I could also print it out or just download it straight. I could keep it in a folder. I wouldn't have to worry about researching for it later. All of that would be there. However, you may already notice, well, before that, a problem. I can click on academic journals. So this is switching to a whole different type of source. Again, we have some deep reading on nursing education, challenges faced by nursing students. So there's a lot of really high detailed information, but there's so much. There's just so much. So I need to try to narrow this down because at this point I'm thinking, wow, I'm interested in nursing, but there's a lot of different ways. Get this, what am I really going to write about? And that's why the advanced search feature is so helpful. Now, so I'm in now advanced search inside of Tennessee Electronic Library, and I really want to start getting specific. I want to think about if I want to write about nursing, what do I really want to say? So I can search for nursing. Now, Tennessee Electronic Library is great about this. It gives me lots of things I could possibly put in here to filter in. So I'm going to click, for example, on nursing education. And let's say I want to find out a lot of information about how nurses are paid. So I might put in a word like wages. So what this says is it's going to search for things that include both nursing education and wages. They both have to be in there together. That might help narrow down articles that are involved. I can fill in third levels. I can also move from keyword to searching things like the article title if I want the thing is to be in title. But I'm going to start with this, and I've not checked this out before. Let's see what we find. So we've searched for nursing education and wages. So here we have, nurses are rejecting a specific plan. This is about nursing in Australia. I have 5 academic journal articles on this topic. Now, this looks like exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. They did a census of nurses, and it's talking about future changes in nursing salaries. Here's about more students choosing to go into nursing. Here's something exactly about registered nurses. And look, the number of articles have gone right down, but if I wanted to have something about how nurses were paid, I have something very, very, very specific. I also have 2 books it's given me. Here's about nursing salaries in Virginia, and a short summary on something related to nursing. It's also given me 21 news articles. Between all this, if I wanted to write something generally about nurses and how they're paid, I could probably find some really good and specific information. And in an article, I know that was pretty quality. So then what would I do? Well, what else would I want to know about nursing? What you're doing is trying to develop a sort of subtopics. Say I want to look at how nurses are educated. So I'm going to search for both nursing and nursing education. I found a lot more this time. So you can narrow that even further. I could go back and put a third thing in there. Here's some magazine articles. Let's check out the journals. Note I can sort them if I want to see new things, old things, or just what's relevant. I usually like relevance, so I'm going to leave it alone. We're getting some pretty heavy science stuff here. I might have to get a teacher to help me with that. Challenge faced by nursing students to work with nursing personnel. Okay. So here's about being a nursing student and trying to work with professional nurses. It's a nice big report. I might find a lot of information to help me fill out parts of a capstone paper. Here's about investigators of a particular university on nursing data. I might find some good numbers in there for my paper. And I would really just look at these, find them, and skim them really quickly. Challenges faced by nursing students to work with nursing personnel. Let's give it a check out. So this is being put out by a medical press. That usually means it's been very professionally written. We have a lot of sources. We have an introduction. This is an entire study. I could just read the introduction and probably here I could get a quick look at what is this long thing going to be talking about. In fact, I have a whole abstract over here. It tells me right here in this conclusion what the results of the study were. That says the challenges of nursing students were categorized into 3 themes, including norms, the atmosphere of the organization they're working in, and their resources. And so it says, it seems inappropriate that organizational culture in the clinical setting and wrong distribution of resources will lead to disruption of nurse-student relationships and the ultimate disruption of clinical education. So this is really talking about what is the best practice for having nursing students work with actual nurses. And so it's going to talk about these 3 main themes in this long article. And this is what you have here, and tells me, am I interested in continuing to look at more of this, or do I want to find another article? Don't let length throw you off. Really, you just have to kind of skim things, get their basics of what's going on. And the more in-depth stuff you have, remember our previous video, the easier it becomes to write the paper. But if you wanted to look at like, what is it like to be a nursing student, this is probably a pretty good article. If that wasn't what interested you, you wanted to find something else. Well, before we close up on TEL, let's talk about this. Well, profit, is it just about careers? Actually, no. Tech's got a lot of, TEL really has a lot of stuff. In fact, I had a couple students last year do a big project on the history of basketball. So let's search for basketball in advanced search. Well, I mean, it's school stuff. Wouldn't have anything on basketball. Oh, never mind. Basketball is mentioned in 48,000 magazines, over 5,000 academic articles, 1,000 books, a million news articles, 7,000 images, over 19,000 videos. Yes, you can use videos on a capstone paper as long as they're quality. However, we see some of the same problem we had with the nursing search. Here we have something about basketball shoes being sold for $560,000. Here's about the Australian National Basketball League. It's about a Netflix show, COVID-19 testing and the NBA. So really, again, when we kind of start something big here in TEL, we want to try to narrow it down something when we find a lot. You got to play with it a bit. Different search terms will give you a lot of things. So let's say I want to find something out about, well, again, we have all these sources, but let's say I don't want one of those. Let's say I want to find something out about the history of basketball. How did basketball start anyway? It's about a Hall of Fame being inductees. Here's about women in basketball. A guy who tried to get Michael Jordan to switch. I'm not finding immediately anything about the history of basketball. So what I should do is I could go down and read some more, but this is a short video and I could try the whole thing in one place. History of basketball. Look, I have basketball history. Again, this is why college women's basketball history. That's why when you don't find the first thing you want, change your search terms. Keep looking instead of just giving up and changing your whole topic. Note it's narrowed a lot more. History of DC basketball. There's a history of basketball. Again, this is just a short book review. You can use full text documents if you need. I could try to find that book. The history of basketball for girls, the remarkable history of women's basketball, history of African Americans in basketball. That's the history of wheelchair basketball. But we have another things here. Let's try some academic journals. We found a few of the same things, some different things. I see, we have a lot of book reviews. You could then, if you find a book review that's not on TEL, you could then try to Google the book. Or look for the book in Limitless Library. We may do another video on that. It did, however, here find 16 books. History of college basketball, something on the Buffalo Braves. James Naismith, who basically invented the game, was one of the major pioneers. In the 60s, you have a few on particular things. You could, again, change your search term some. So really, I'd show both of these. So I picked sort of interest-related things like basketball and then a career-related thing like nursing to show you how you can use TEL. And I really want you to see how in-depth these articles are. Most of this stuff is not freely available over the internet. And this is really something that can help you with your research. And I think I've also shown you, I hope, to use advanced search so you can use different search terms. Use Tennessee Electronic Library suggestions. And if you have trouble finding something at first, change your search terms. Change a bunch of things. Look at all these headings, find different things, and then just kind of skim the tops of the articles. See if they're talking something about you're interested in. And if it is, save it. If not, go find something else. Go find another article on the thing that interests you for your capstone project. But you need to spend a lot of time on TEL. You really do. You really do. I think most of my students need at least 10 sources out of this thing before they be comfortable with the paper. And use it to kind of help narrow down your true interests. And so this is our look at Tennessee Electronic Library. Again, ask your teacher, ask your school librarians for more help. This is just sort of a beginning introduction. There's lots of other different ways to use this and other ways to find sources. But here for the moment, this is Tennessee Electronic Library. And again, for Jason Profit, Hunters Lane High School, good luck on your capstone papers.